eligibility. This is going to come to the RTI question. This is a real boy, not his real picture, of course. Case of Rocky. He actually was in a school district very close to where I live in Northern Virginia. Really a well-off district, a lot of services. First grade, he was behind in reading, math, and writing. So they gave him all kinds of instruction, weekly, 6 months of individual reading instruction, made minimal progress, so they left him back. Bad intervention. Second year, and the second time in the same grade, he's still struggling, phonics problems, sight words, blah, 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 right? So after 2 years of special team meetings, we finally tested him. Here's what we found. He had a 72 in planning and a 76 in successive, 102 in simultaneous, and a 98 in attention. This poor kid suffered for 2 years because people were pushing RTI, and it was really, the resistance to testing. They would have found this out if they gave the CATS-2 brief. They would have found this out the first month that someone said, "Hey, what's happening with this little guy?" They would have known what's wrong, and they would have been able to proceed accordingly. That's not what happened. And when you have a planning and a successive processing weakness, that's really hard. Because when you get stuck, you can't figure out what to do. You really need help. Now, I just want to tell you, on my website, if you go to Pass Score Analyzers, you can get these little spreadsheets that I wrote. And you just put in the PASS scores in what would be a yellow boxes. And then you put in the achievement scores, whatever achievement test you gave. I recommend the FAR and the FAM and Steve Piper's writing test, but you could, if you gave the KT or any of the other achievement tests, including the batteria, I have these same Excel spreadsheets for all the tests, and it'll build a little triangle for you. And I'll tell you, the triangle is so helpful for teachers and parents to really get a handle on. They really like it. It's a good way of explaining what's going on and helping people understand. So what we recommend for somebody like this is, first, the kid's anxious. We gotta help them use plans to overcoming his anxiety. Things like graphic organizers, segmenting, chunking. These are all intervention handouts that we give to teachers, the parents, talk to the student about it, and so on and so forth. But here's the ATI piece that I'm going to answer your question, Heather. So in the early 90s, I decided I was going to start doing intervention research in addition to everything else that I was doing. And I started by using a behavioral methodology, a pre-post, where we would look at the relationship between how much improvement children show in mathematics taken directly from their curriculum when we help them be more strategic, and if that helps some children more than others based upon their profile, their PASS profile. So Heather, you go to my website and get the other papers that you can read. I'm just going to show you the last one. Because the results are pretty astounding, but look at the title here. This is children with ADHD and SLD. These are the really hard people to work with, right? They have both problems. And now look at the last line, a randomized control study. If you remember your experimental design, what that means is you can say the treatment caused the result. We can't say that with a baseline intervention study, really, but we can say that here. You have to have that randomized control. So anyway, so what happened? And what did we do? Well, we had this was Jackie Eisman's dissertation. We had experimental group, control group. The method that we used was we created math worksheets based upon the mathematics that they had been taught. So we got their curriculum. We created math worksheets using an Excel program that I wrote that would allow you to create an infinite number of math worksheets that had the same level of difficulty, but the numbers were slightly different. And the method was we would give the kids 10 minutes to complete the math worksheets. There were 4 pages of math. And then we would have something in the middle, and then 10 more minutes to do more math. The something in the middle for the control group was more math instruction. Think about that. Kids got more math instruction. The kids in experimental group got this technique, which I call planning facilitation. What does that mean? That means that the teachers, the regular teachers, we didn't do the study, the regular teachers would discuss with the children in the experimental group what the students were doing. So the teachers facilitated discussions. They asked questions. What was your goal? Where did you start? What strategies did you use? What will you do next time? They never taught strategies. They never said, here are the 5 steps to being a better planner or anything like that. And we recorded what the students said. I mean, in the actual article, we have like a whole page of these kinds of things. But the students said things like, my goal was to do the easy problems. Okay, that's fine, but you're not going to increase that much because I limited the number of easy problems. I do the problems, I know I check my work. Wow, how many times do we want kids to say that, right? That's a good strategy, checking the work. You know, I draw lines to keep the column straight, another good strategy. I did the ones that took the least time. Okay, that's a good way to get more done. They're being thoughtful about what they did. So here's what we found. On the math worksheets, taken directly from their curriculum, the normal instruction kids improved the effect size of 0.6. The students who were encouraged to be more strategic, look at that change. That's pretty dramatic. But we didn't stop there. We also gave Wyatt numerical operations. The normal instruction kids got, well, basically the same. The experimental group got better. Then we did math fluency, same thing. Experimental group got better. And then a year later, in this school, the students are assessed academically every year. So we went back a year later and we pulled the achievement scores, and the experimental group was still significantly better than the control group. A year later, we were never in that school. Now, this particular study was the 5th or 6th study that I've done, sometimes involving reading comprehension. But in every single study, we look at the relationship, who improved based, over this interval of time based upon their past profiles. And what we always found is that the students who were low in planning always improved dramatically more than everybody else. The lines would cross, in other words. In every single of these studies, using math or reading comprehension, we've always looked at profiles. The students who gain the most are the students who are low in planning in every study. So said another way, cognition predicts response to intervention. That's your ATI. Why does it work here and it didn't work elsewhere? Because visual and auditory is not that doesn't work. The modality is not the driver. What the driver is what's behind the modality. But remember all the different modalities I showed you for simultaneous processing, for example. We've thought modality matters. It doesn't. If you look at WISC scores or the definition of the aptitudes have been crude. But our definition of aptitude is PASS, and you've seen at least some of the evidence of how well it works. So that's why we get a different result. We get a different result, and ATI is dead if you're using the old stuff. ATI is very alive if you use PASS. Think about Tulio's case with the student who was low in attention. That was an ATI. The attribute of the student was managed by a really simple intervention. Encourage a student to focus on the details, and it made all the difference. My colleague, JP Das, has done a whole bunch of studies with reading decoding, kids with reading decoding problems. And he's shown the same thing, and I've done all this work with math and reading comprehension. I mean, I'm just like showing you a little bit of a window. But read the papers on my website and be in touch with me. We could talk some more about it. But there's clearly evidence that PASS has relevance to instruction. It's really very clear. Here's just some of the studies on it, done by a whole variety of people. They're all summarized in my Essentials book. And again, you can get all of my studies on my website. So here's kind of the big picture there. I'm going to take a few more questions and then we'll stop. So I think that if you have to defend your position that you found a student who has a specific learning disability, and you have the Discrepancy Consistency Method that I described, and you have all this evidence and everything that I've shown you that you can take with you to a due process hearing and say, look, I use this test for this reason, and here it has profiles. Here it's the most significantly related to achievement, and on and on and on. You're in good shape. You don't need to worry about anything. You know, you have all the evidence there, and you can do it in 20 minutes if you want to be doing it at a tier 1 or 2, or 40 or 60 minutes, depending upon how much you want to get out of it. And it's very interwoven with achievement, and we have tables that help you with all of that. PASS and all the tests from Steve Pfeiffer's, but it just is harder if you're not using Steve's test, but it's still doable. All right, everybody, have a good day.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.